Welcome, and thank you for joining me on tonight's gentle journey into the past. Before we begin, allow yourself to settle into your bed, your blanket softly tucked around your body like the folds of a well-worn frontier quilt. Let the light around you dim and your breath slow. The American frontier has long been portrayed as a land of hope and promise, a place where rugged men and determined women forge their futures. In untamed lands, there's no rush here, just you, and the soft rhythm of a story gently unfolding. The constant fear of animals, of accidents, of other people. The frontier was not a paradise. It was a gamble. Tonight, we drift back not to the castles of Europe or the temples of the East, but to the quiet, creaking cabins and windswept plains of 19th century America. We'll begin with a cold, dangerous life inside a cramped log cabin. Then, we'll follow the tragic footsteps of the Donner Party, lost in the Sierra Nevada. The small fireplace does its best to warm the room, but most of the heat escapes through gaps in the walls and roof. Frost forms on the inside of windows, if there are any at all. On good days, perhaps a rabbit or fish. On bad days, nothing. Hunger is a constant companion. Crops fail, game is scarce, and the nearest thoroughfare is one maybe a 3-day ride away, along trails where weather or wolves may claim you. More often, greased paper has been stretched across open frames in place of glass, and when illness comes measles, smallpox, cholera, there are no doctors, only herbal remedies, prayers, and home remedies passed down through word of mouth. After that, we'll wander into the eerie silence of Roanoke, a colony that vanished without a trace. Tensions simmered, skirmishes flared, and in some places, entire families vanished in the night. Cabins found empty days later. There is little privacy. Children sleep 3 to a bed, if there is a bed. Many wrote of a peculiar kind of madness that crept in with the long, lonely winters of stillness, so deep it rang in the ears. Adults may sleep on piles of straw or blankets on the floor. Rats scurry through corners, and insects make their homes in the wooden beams above. The screams carried across empty fields, unanswered. The fire, low and sputtering, fades behind us. We'll now follow another pather trail through snow-covered mountains, where a group of pioneers walked into history and horror. You might swat at a mosquito in summer, or wait to find a snake curled in a dark corner in spring. Neighbors, though few and far between, formed bonds of necessity. Quilting, bees, barn raisings, and church gatherings offered rare moments of warmth and connection. Finally, we allow peer into the polished rail cars of the elite, those who lived lavishly, even as the rest struggled. Low, dry grass rippling in the wind, a gray sky pressing close overhead. No cities, no roads, just silence, broken only by the wind and the occasional distant howl. But that image, romanticized in paintings and movies, often obscures the harsher truths. The loneliness, the biting winters. Our 4 segments tonight will explore the weary, grinding reality behind the myth of manifest destiny. But for now, begin with me in the earliest, ruest part of the American story, the log cabin in the wilderness. Segment 1. Why life in a frontier cabin was cold, cramped, and constantly dangerous. Imagine, if you will, a landscape stretching endlessly before you. Now, picture a single log cabin in this emptiness, small, misshapen, and hastily built from timber hewn by hand. The wood groans in the wind. There is no insulation, no paint, no polish. The chinking between the logs' mud mixed with straw has begun to crumble. The floor is dirt, sometimes packed so tightly it feels like stone underfoot. Other times, it turns to soft mud in spring rains. Inside, the air is damp and cold. In winter, the cabin rarely rises above freezing. Families 6, 8, sometimes more live shoulder to shoulder in these spaces. Meals are simple and repetitive. Salt, pork, hard biscuits, cornmeal mush, the dangers never rest. A simple cut can fester into a deadly infection. A broken limb may mean permanent disability. Imagine performing surgery on yourself. Some did. A tooth extracted with a knife, a gangrenous limb cut away with a rusty saw. And yet, people persisted. Cabins slowly became homes. Logs gave way to lumber, but isolation lingered. Days passed in silence. Women, in particular, bore the brunt alone with children, endlessly laboring while their husbands hunted or farmed miles away. And above it all, the threat of violence, sometimes from strangers, sometimes from conflict with native peoples pushed violently off their lands. Still, the myth of the frontier endured, even as the reality meant frostbitten fingers, childbirth without help, and hunger so sharp it twisted the belly. Still, the wagons rolled westward, even as blizzards buried cabins, as rivers rose without warning, and as loneliness carved deep hollows in the soul. Still, they came, and in the quiet of night, under a leaking roof and a thin blanket, they looked to the stars and imagined something better ahead. As we leave the cabin behind, let the sound of the wind slip from your thoughts. Let your mind gently shift from the worn wooden planks of the cabin to the creaking of wagon wheels. In soft snow, it is the autumn of 1846. A group of nearly 90 pioneers, children, elderly, parents, oxen, and all have set out for California in hopes of new beginnings. Their names will soon echo through time, not for their dreams, but for their suffering. They are known today as the Donner Party. Imagine the start of their journey not with doom, but with hope. Bright skies, sturdy wagons, the promise of land and harvest. They follow the Oregon Trail, a well-worn path, heading west until they reach a fork and make a fateful decision. They choose a shortcut and untested route called the Hastings Cutoff. It promises speed. It delivers delay almost at once. The terrain turns hostile. Thick brush, jagged hills, dry, sun-blasted stretches. Their wagons must be dismantled, pulled by hand, rebuilt. The animals are weakening. The sun reflects off the endless salt, blinding and burning. The wheels of the wagons sink and drag. Each mile feels longer than the last. Small log cabins, tents of branches, roofs patched with canvas. Snow rises above the windows. Then the doors. Soon, they are sealed, and outside, the landscape is white, cold, and utterly silent. Time slows. Tensions rise. The shortcut, they soon realize, is no shortcut at all. By the time they reach the Great Salt Lake Desert, their supplies are dwindling. They boil bones until they crumble. Still, the hunger deepens. But onward, they press, not knowing what waits ahead, with a horror that would haunt them long after the snow melted. Winter comes early in the Sierra Nevada mountains. They carry no food, only scraps. Snow blinds them. The cold bites through layers. One by one, they fall. Snow begins to fall, then pile, then bury. The Donner Party, now exhausted, builds makeshift shelters near a lake. Cannibals, some call them, but the truth is, softer and satyr. These were people like you, like me, people who simply wanted to reach a new home, people who hoped for land, safety, and future, and instead met ice, silence, and hunger. But if you listen closely, you may still hear the creak of frozen timber or the hush of footsteps in snow. The past lingers, softly, quietly like frost that never quite melts. Inside, starvation begins, to an island once settled and then abandoned, where mystery, not memory, is all that remains. A few spoke later of what they endured. Most chose not to. They eat what they have. First, the oxen, then the leather straps and hides, even tree bark. Some try to leave. A group of 17 sets out on foot to cross the mountains what history will call the forlorn hope. Those who remain face choices that most of us cannot fathom. Choices born not of malice, but of desperation. They survived, some of them, by taking nourishment from those who did not, quietly, privately. They do not speak of it, not then, not fully, ever. But word spreads, as it always does. When rescuers finally reach the stranded group weeks later, they find only 45 of the original 87 alive. Most are weak, silent, hollow-eyed. The youngest survivor is just a baby. Back east, newspapers report the story with a mix of fascination and revulsion. After the ordeal, some survivors went on to rebuild their lives. Today, that lake is called Donner Lake. You can walk its shores, camp by its banks. Let us now leave the mountains behind and the snow. We will move next to the sea. Let your breath soften now as we travel even farther back in time, before wagons creaked westward, before the birth of a nation, to the late 1500s, when England first tried to plant its flag across the Atlantic. You're now on the edge of the known world. The year is 1587. Imagine stepping off a creaking wooden ship, sails fluttering gently onto the soft, sandy shores of what is now North Carolina. Tall grasses sway, and the trees rise like green walls. This land is lush, untamed, silent but for the chirps of birds and the distant rush of waves. It is families, over 100 men, women, and children. Among them is Eleanor Dare, daughter of the colony's governor. She is pregnant. Days after landing, she gives birth to Virginia Dare, first English child born in the Americas. Governor John White, Eleanor's father, sails back to England to gather what is needed: tools, food, reinforcements. This is Roanoke Island. The group that lands here is not an army, nor a scouting party. Hope, it seems, has a new home, but the land proves less welcoming than it first appeared. The colonists have little food. Relations with nearby native tribes grow strained. The climate is unpredictable, and supplies shipped from England are late. He leaves his daughter, his granddaughter, and the colony behind. He intends to return within a few months. He returns 3 years later. Storms, war with Spain, political chaos all delay his journey. And when at last he reaches the island in 1590, he finds nothing. No smoke rising from chimneys, no footprints in the dirt, no boats bobbing in the inlet. The houses are gone, dismantled, not destroyed. There are no signs of struggle, no graves, no skeletons, no possessions. Only one clue remains: the word Croatoan carved into a wooden post, and the letters Crow scratched into a nearby tree. He returns to England and never sees his family again. The colony says vanished. White believes the settlers may have moved to Croatoan Island, home to a friendly tribe, but storms prevent him from searching further. Some say the colonists starved and died quietly. Others believe they were absorbed into nearby tribes, leaving behind their language and clothes. Some propose conflict or abduction. Others whisper of secret escapes inland. Centuries pass, and still no clear answer emerges. Historians suggest many possibilities. No single theory holds all the pieces. Archaeologists have uncovered fragments of ring, a bit of armor, a piece of pottery, but no written accounts, no firm trace of where the people went or why. And so the mystery endures. The lost colony, they call it. It lives on in maps and legends, in stage plays and ghost stories. As our final segment begins, we'll step into a world far from cabins and snow, the polished, humming world of those who profited as others suffered. The sun setting over the Atlantic, the wind rustling through empty trees, a word carved in wood, weathered by centuries. You may have heard it referenced softly in school books or documentaries. Did they live on, speaking English and Algonquian both? Did they leave behind descendants who never knew their names? But in truth, Roanoke is less a story and more a space, a quiet, empty space in the timeline, a silence that asks questions in a whisper. What did Eleanor dare see in her final days? What happened to Virginia, that first child of empire? We do not know. And that, perhaps, is what keeps Roanoke alive. Its mystery, too soft, too disturbed, too quiet to forget. Let your thoughts linger for a moment in that quiet. Now, gently, we move from mystery to wealth, from the vanished to the powerful.